ain't the plug, I'm connected to the socket. Already paid dues, I'm forever paying homage.
What's good? We got another edition of Playbook and One Stop. What's going on, One Stop? RJ, feeling all right?
What's good, man? How you feeling?
Man, feeling all right. Been following the Olympics very closely. Team USA, they looking kind of sorry this year. I'm not talking about, basketball, men's or women's. I'm talking about in general. Normally, Team USA got a lot more gold medals. I think we only got like 4 golds right now. So it ain't looking too good, but I'm doing all right myself.
So I would say just before we go into our first topic, I would say that I in some ways I agree, but I just want to like give a shout out to the rest of the world for like I feel like we're at a point to where a lot of the things and the competitiveness that we've had in the States over the years is starting to, a lot of our cultural, a lot of cultural things that we started in America or that grew to where it was in America, it's starting to be the same across across the globe.
Beat USA.
Yeah, so
Beat
shout
USA.
out to them, man. People really want to wake up and compete with us now, man.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah. They don't want it to be a thing like Team USA just ruling the whole landscape. They trying to give us a run for our money. It's not looking too good. It's actually starting to bother me because I love, outside of basketball, the only time I really watch other sports like this is this time of year. Every 4 years, I'm watching gymnastics. I'm watching swimming. I mean, Ledecky, she just went 1,500 meters and she won by like 10 to 20 seconds or something crazy like that. I don't watch swimming on a regular basis. I don't watch gymnastics on a regular basis, but they killed it. Suni Lee, Simone Biles, they was cooking in gymnastics. That's the only time I'm watching. So, I like this time of year every 4 years. You get to enjoy different type of sports. I mean, I was watching rugby the other day. They had a comeback win at the end, at the buzzer. I was watching fencing. I don't know nothing about fencing. All I know is old girl came back and beat old girl from France, stole the gold in her home country. I mean, I don't really know what's going on with a lot of these sports, but I like watching it. But we came here to talk about Team USA basketball, the men's. All right. How many different ways can you have a controversial start and it have nothing to do with the basketball court? All right. Number one, why is Jaylen Brown not a part of Team USA? All right, I have my own opinion, but I want to hear what your train of thought is as to why Jaylen Brown is not on Team USA, but you have Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, and then Kawhi Leonard goes down with an injury. You bring in Derek White, a fellow Boston Celtic member, to replace him. Why is Jaylen Brown not on this roster?
So it's a lot of speculation of, and opinions of what, anybody could say, or anybody, even when you go back to the 92 Dream Team, there's a lot of different reasons why people feel like Isaiah didn't play, but this is my reason, right? There are no longer tryouts for the USA team, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
I feel like
they just pick from a pool.
I feel like that's something that plays a huge part in a lot of people not being on the team. The fact that guys aren't able to come out and actually try out for the team and really, show what they can do. Not only like when they're playing for their respective teams or in their conference or in their division against the people that they play throughout the year, but you get to see them against the highest like they're practicing with these guys. They're on the plane with these guys. They're riding a bus with them. They're eating breakfast with them. They're sleeping with them. They're living with them. Like,
whoa, pause.
Pause. Yeah, you're right.
Continue.
Pause.
Go ahead. I got
They're
you.
living with them. Pause. But you really get to see some of these guys compete on a different level than they would compete, throughout the season for real. So I think that might be the biggest difference is the fact that they not on tryouts no more when it comes to the USA team.
Yeah. Now, My opinion on this, it's a little different than the whole basketball aspect. If you think back, there was a conversation on ESPN First Take where Stephen A. Smith said Jaylen Brown was not marketable. Okay. I disagree with that take, but I feel like those type of takes feed into this narrative surrounding Jaylen Brown. And we'll talk about, Kyrie Irving, another video, but specifically about Jaylen Brown, I think he is, and remind you, the teams were announced before the finals MVP situation. Right? He wasn't the finals MVP when they named the teams, the roster, and everything like that. So the conversation saying, how do you not have the finals MVP? He wasn't that when the teams were made, but he's still one of the best two-way players in the league. All right. I hate Boston as much as anybody, but I still got to admit, I mean, his defensive performance in the finals and the conference finals, phenomenal. All right. Jaylen Brown is the most dangerous thing to the NBA and how they market players and how they want to be seen to the outside world, all right? Especially in comparison to their counterparts, the NFL, the major leagues, the NHL. He's the most dangerous thing. Young, intelligent black man with a big bag, knows how to speak his mind. He was doing some lecturing at Harvard. He was doing some work with NASA. I mean, the man is well educated, well
Richard
spoken.
Sherman should have been. I'm sorry.
That could be, and see, this is what I mean. All right. This conversation around him, in that sense, has a very long rabbit hole. And like you just said, you threw out Richard Sherman, I threw out Kyrie Irving. There's a list of guys that are quote unquote dangerous to the outside world, the outside image of their respective leagues, because it kind of makes them uncomfortable when you have a young man that can speak his mind, knows what he's talking about, educated, and has one of the biggest bags in NBA history. It makes people uncomfortable. And then you add that into the situation where you're picking teams. You pick up Derek White, but you don't pick up Jaylen Brown. Okay, if I'm gonna lose a guy like Kawhi Leonard, one of the best two-way players in the league, can go get you 30, stop another guy from getting 20, why not have a younger version of that, the next version of a Kawhi Leonard? Comes down to the fact that might make people uncomfortable, no matter what Grant Hill says. Right?
100%.
Because guess what? Everybody's looking at Grant Hill like, yo, why did you do X, Y, and Z? Grant Hill got to answer to somebody else. He's just the face of the situation. He's just answering to somebody else as it pertains to the whole Jaylen Brown situation.
100%. 100%.
Now, my next question, all right? Speaking of Boston Celtics players, Jason Tatum didn't play game one, all right? They beat Serbia by, 26, something like that. Then today, game two versus South Sudan, you don't play Joel Embiid. For whatever reason, you take Joel Embiid not only out of the starting lineup, but you make sure he does not play a single minute in the game today. Now, you got Steve Kerr as the head coach, and the lead assistant is Eric Spoelstra. Then the next assistant is Tyronn Lue. I think both of us clearly agree Spoelstra is the best coach of the three. Ty Lue is the second best coach, and Steve 100%. Kerr has been handed a lot of talent, lot of easy ride.
He knows how to manage egos, but
he knows how to manage egos. I'll give him that. But I would say the other two are a lot better at that than he is, even in that aspect. So when it comes to X's, O's, and all that, the other two are the better coach out of the three.
100%.
Do you think that Steve Kerr is the right coach for this Team USA squad? Based on what we've seen, how he's handling, the lineups and everything like that.
No, not necessarily. I don't think so. Not necessarily. Like, I don't feel like he's a bad choice, but best is kind of a stretch, just because, like, when it comes to Steve Kerr, right? I feel like Steve Kerr has done a very good job of being like, maybe like if Phil Jackson is the Jordan of coaching, he's kind of like Kobe. He's done a very good job at like mirroring a lot of stuff that He learned from playing up under Phil Jackson and watching him interact with different players like
And
Dennis
Pop.
Rodman
And Pop.
and Pop too. Pop as well, 100%. They uh were very good at managing egos, and they both coach players like Dennis Rodman.
Mm-hmm.
Him playing with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, seeing that relationship being able to evolve to go on and be a part of one of the 2-3 piece that Scottie and Mike was able to put together, together. But I think him being able to see that, he's done a great job of mirroring that, as a coach. And so to answer your question, like, no, I don't think he's a bad choice, but to be the best choice, is kind of a stretch. I don't think so.
I don't think that he's the right coach for Team USA, specifically in this sense. Okay. It seems like he's in a position where, and you also got to factor in the awkwardness of, you already know that Kevin Durant is not your number one fan, considering how things unfolded in Golden State. You also got to follow up with the fact that the way you're handling the lineups right now, I don't know if you saw this, but the way Joel Embiid looked on the bench today is the same way Jason Tatum looked on the bench the other game. And that's an easy way to lose a locker room. And you're only 2 games in. That's a very easy way to lose a locker room, because the way I see it is this. You keep catering to, okay, this is the team we're playing. Okay, this is the style I want to play. So let's completely change up this lineup. You added 2 new starters in today. You put in Anthony Davis and you bring in Jason Tatum, who did not play game 1, and you add him into the starting lineup for game 2. Have you ever seen a situation where you said, okay, in this particular game versus this team, Dwight Howard is completely unplayable? I've never seen that. Versus this team, Patrick Ewing, unplayable. Shaquille O'Neal, completely unplayable in this situation. If we watch NBA games, you've never seen a team completely put in, maybe a all guard lineup, and Joel Embiid could not be on the court for the Philadelphia 76ers. Their response is always, okay, that's what you do on that side. We still have our identity, and we still have the most dominant big man in the entire NBA from an offensive perspective. So you're going to have to cater to what we do best, which is throw the ball into him, let him get 35, and y'all deal with the rest of us, shooting a bunch of threes. I think that's a quick way to lose a locker room, because at the end of the day, you have the most powerful team on both sides of the ball in the entire Olympics. Not even close. You have LeBron James and Steph Curry. That's your backcourt. Drew Holiday is going to guard whoever the best perimeter player is. Then you have Anthony Davis and Bam Adebayo, probably the best tandem of big guys
100%.
that we've seen in quite some time in Team USA basketball. I'm saying going back to maybe 2008, where you had Dwight and Chris Bosh at times in that lineup, or you had Chris Bosh and LeBron at the 4 and 5. But I think the thing about this particular method of, all right, we're going to play this way versus this team and another way, maybe some team is going to pick up on that and say, all right, let's change up our lineups in a way to completely remove Joel Embiid, to completely remove Jason Tatum, to completely remove Steph Curry. It could be a situation where they say, all right, we're just going to post up Steph. We're going to isolate Steph. We've seen that happen in the NBA a ton of times. If Klay Thompson doesn't switch in a lot of situations, Curry's on the island and we just going to go at him all game. What if another team does that? Now you take away the best shooter in NBA history. Now you can't play him. Like, if that's going to be the way you're going to go about it, that's going to be a tough time sledding. And like I said, you could lose the locker room that way.
100%.
This last question is a question that Coach K answered a day or two ago. And here's one thing that I want to say before I actually ask the question. All right. And this is something that I just realized today that I had been doing. I can't tell you the last time I watched or listened to a podcast where it wasn't a former NBA player, where it wasn't somebody who was in the league, played the game at a high level. I can't tell you the last time I listened to a NBA Insider podcast, a Woj podcast, anybody else that didn't play the game, that just put on a suit and sat behind the desk and talked about the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how long you covered it. It doesn't matter. I'm not listening to your podcast if you're not a Carmelo Anthony, Draymond Green, LeBron James. If you're not one of those guys, I'm not listening to your podcast because it's not the same. You know what I mean?
I know where this is going.
So one dude, Rob Parker, his comment in response to what Coach K was saying, Coach K talked about who he thought the greatest Olympian for Team USA men's basketball was. And Rob Parker went on this whole thing saying, it doesn't matter because you played against a bunch of nobodies in Team USA basketball, and the only thing anybody cares about is what happens in the NBA. When specifically the question was, who is the greatest Team USA player ever? All right. And I feel like the guys in suits and ties love to hijack a conversation, and whatever conversation they have, whatever they say, they like to think that it's fact. They like to make the assumption that what they're saying about the topic matters. Yeah, when it doesn't.
That's how it is now. You see that. It's
look, people don't like Draymond, but Draymond, he was speaking facts. The new media is kind of taking back that control from the old heads. The Rob Parkers, Chris Broussard, I enjoy him. Nick Wright, I enjoy him. Skip Bayless, he on his way out. He might crawl back to ESPN. We could throw Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith in there too, because to a degree, I'm talking about basketball. They've never played. All right. Shannon Sharp is, when it comes to NFL, that's a different conversation. He can say whatever he wants to, but basketball wise, I want to hear from Draymond. I want to hear from Chuck. I want to hear from Shaq, Kenny, and all those guys, right? I don't want to hear from you. I say all that to say, who is the greatest Team USA player of all time?
To me, all right, so look, this is crazy, right? Because I'm going to pick a player that I never even seen play.
What?
In the Olympics. Yeah.
What? I'm
just going to pick it based off of, because look, who I'm going to say is, based on who I've seen play is Kobe, period. It's Kobe. Based on who I've seen. But based on like narratives and stories that I've heard when it comes to practices, the type of like reaction he got once he got out there to from the fans, and how he was able to galvanize his team and really force his team to compete, outside of Kobe, of course, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, bro.
You know what's crazy is
Barcelona is where Mike became the GOAT. That's where like that's where Magic and Larry and all the guys from the previous era was like pretty much everybody except for Chuck. Pretty much everybody except for Chuck was like, he might be the best ever. Like that might.
And you know what's crazy is you was this close. You was this close from changing my entire argument, but I'm gonna stick to it. I'm gonna stick to the person I said. You almost had me though. You was that close. You almost had me. I like the point about the Barcelona, Magic and Bird. I like that point. You was that close. You almost had me. My response to that is, when it comes to the player I'm going to say, all right, this player has when we talk about the NBA, he has all of the tools, every skill you can think of. You can barely find a single weakness to his game when it comes to the NBA. But people always say, but when you hold up his resume to the others, it doesn't measure up. Now, when we look to Team USA, you say the aura, the skills, the talent, what everybody else brought to the table, they have that over him, and this guy has the resume. I find that ironic. When I look at Team USA and I'm talking about the greatest of all time, I'm saying Kevin Durant. Here's why.
And
First,
you know how I feel about KD.
I know, and that's why I'm surprised you didn't go that route. First in points, first in points per game, first in field goals made, first in 3-point field goals made, and first in free throws made. He's third in rebounds and third in blocks, fourth in games played, fourth in assists, 3 Olympic golds, and they're about to win another one, so he's going to have 4. Olympic MVP, the reigning Olympic MVP, 3 times voted USA Basketball Male Athlete of the Year. That's his resume. Right? So he has the resume, but in this sense, we're leaning towards players who had the skill, the talent, the greatness, the aura, dominated when they were on the court, motivated their teammates, did all of those things. But if you think about it, it's in reverse when you look at the NBA. He has all the talent, the skills, can shoot from 30, score 30 every single night if he wanted to. All of that, all the talent in the world, but his resume doesn't measure up to Magic Johnson, doesn't measure up to Michael Jordan, doesn't measure up to Kobe, Tim Duncan, Shaq. So how do you feel about that dynamic? With I mean, like I said, I think Kevin Durant is GOAT. This is the same answer that Coach K gave, but I went more in depth with the stats and the figures and the records and all that stuff because it's still and counting as we speak.
So I think players like Kevin Durant, right? I think Kevin Durant is a top 5 talent of all time when it comes to basketball. He's a 7-footer who can put the ball on the floor like a guard. He can shoot from 35. He can post up. He can play defense on your big, on your guard, small forward, whoever. Like he can do. There's nothing in basketball that Kevin Durant can't do.
And to your point, we also found out in Brooklyn he was a lot better at facilitating the basketball than we
100%.
originally thought too.
100%. He is top 5 most talented players to ever play the game, bar none.
Yep.
So I think that a lot of people overlook that though, based on the fact that Kevin Durant's greatness or certain hits that his legacy has taken because he's kind of been reluctant to take on that role of really being the guy, the leader, and being great, being a great competitor as well as a great player or great performer, being a great competitor. So I think when it comes to players like Michael Jordan, Kobe, Magic Johnson, that's where he kind of might take the back seat to those guys, but they're in the same tier when it comes to even he might be even slightly higher than them in that tier when it comes to skill level, talent level, and like you said, his Olympic resume.
Yeah, he's our favorite player's favorite player. I mean, across the board. You think if you were to ask Steph, if you were to ask LeBron, Kobe once said, I mean, outside of Carmelo Anthony, KD is his toughest cover. Dwayne Wade says same thing. There's a lot of guys that look at Kevin Durant and said, man, I wish I was 7 feet tall, can shoot like you do, handle like you do. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of things to his game, but I feel like all of this stems from the disrespect of those 2 championships in Golden State. People will never, ever, I don't care how many gold medals he wins. I don't care if he
never getting over that, bro.
I don't care if he wins multiple championships in Phoenix. It does not matter. They will never fully give him the respect he deserves because they still holding Golden State over him. Like he don't have 2 finals MVPs. Like he didn't average 35 in one finals, 33 in the other. And he hit, game winning shots in big moments on the road versus the greatest player of the era, arguably the greatest player of all time. He's never going to get credit for that simply because he played for Golden State. Now, look, people don't like him. That's fine. But you got to respect the fact this dude is the most lethal weapon we have ever seen in a basketball uniform. I made multiple videos talking about this. In my opinion, when we go skill for skill, talent for talent, and we factor in weaknesses, Kevin Durant you got to understand Kevin Durant may not be the greatest of all time in a sense where you got to factor in on court and the resume, but skill for skill and talent level, he might be the best player we've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's quite possible. If you just say, all right, pick up game, let's roll the balls out, he might be the best player we've ever seen. So I think it's fair to include Michael and Kobe, like you said, because they're responsible for setting the standard and the culture of Team USA basketball to what we see it as today. All right, but I think Kevin Durant is the GOAT of Team USA basketball.
I like that.
You got anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No, I just want to let y'all know that, you know, football season is almost here, man. You know, so I know we've been enjoying, you know, a very, very competitive and a very, very long basketball season.
Yeah.
But it's back, baby. It's back.
Now,
red and gold skies. Red and gold skies.
Now, don't make me cut your video feed off. Listen, we got Madden 25 dropping on August 16th. RJ gets it 3 days earlier. Next 100%. Week, we are doing a draft. Him and Coach Breeze. All right, we are drafting an offense. We are drafting a defense, and we are going to put both teams in a simulator, and you guys are going to vote on who has the best team. There is a surprise catch, though, and I'm not going to reveal it today, and I'm not even going to tell y'all until draft day. So you can come up with all your picks in mind, whoever you want to draft, but there is a catch that will be announced at a later date. Give this video a like. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel. We get compliments all the time about how good of an episode that we're putting on and, you know, how much you enjoy the show. Make sure you click that like, share, and subscribe button because that helps keep things going.